Meantime, student protests are planned around the country demanding action on guns and protecting our schools. It's called the March for Our Lives, and that's the subject of tonight's Left Hook, Right Jab. Welcome to the studio, KXL's Lars Larson and former Portland City Commissioner Steve Novick. Welcome, gentlemen. Before we get to your question, we want to invite you at home to vote on this. Tell us who you think is winning the debate. Just go to kgw.com/vote or click Vote Now on the KGW app to get started. Okay, here is your question. What is your message for students who will march this weekend? And Steve, you're first this week.
Well, my message would be, you're doing great. You're succeeding where the adults have failed. You got that law passed in Florida, raising the gun buying age to 21. That's great. You're focusing on getting rid of assault rifles and high capacity magazines that allow people to fire dozens of shots without stopping to reload. That's fantastic. Keep on doing what you're doing.
I got to tell you, Steve, I'm congratulating the kids for going out on a weekend instead of wasting valuable class time. But the one thing I'd encourage them to do is come up with some actual suggestions. For the most part, these marches so far have been simply do something. Well, there have been plenty of politicians who've suggested doing something at the state level or the national level for a long time. Even President Obama couldn't get an anti-gun bill passed, thank God, during the years when he had a Democrat House and a Democrat Senate. And about that gun bill that they passed in Florida that was signed into law by the governor, they had also allowed for teachers to carry guns, which is the most sensible way to start protecting those school classrooms.
Lars, actually, the March for Our Lives specifically says we need to get rid of assault rifles and high-capacity magazines. My question for you is, why does anybody need to be able to fire 30 rounds without stopping to reload? Even Clint Eastwood only needed 6. The line in Dirty Harry is, did I fire 6 shots or did I fire 5? It's not, did I fire 30 shots or did I fire 29?
I got to tell you, Steve, you folks always talk about need. When it comes to civil rights, it's not about need. It's about a civil right. Nobody says, do you need to go to church? Do you need to have to express yourself? You have the right to do it. The government's job is to make sure that you don't use that right to the point where you take somebody's life or threaten somebody's safety. It's not about need. And the fact is, it's not rifles that are the problem. More people are killed every year, twice as many in America with hammers as are killed with rifles. Rifles are responsible for about 250 deaths, the people who fire those rifles. It's 10,000 people who die every year because of homicides with pistols.
Well, Lars, that brings me to a discussion we had a couple of weeks ago. I said that Britain, which has really tough gun laws, has much lower murder rates than the United States. And you said, actually, Britain has a higher rate of violent crime. Well, if you look at all assaults and robberies, Britain's violent crime rate is at least as high as ours. But they have far fewer murders. And that's because when somebody commits a violent act in Britain, nobody has a gun, and normally everybody lives. In the United States, when somebody commits a violent act, they often have a gun and somebody dies. That's what the kids understand.
Steve, you're wrong when you say they don't have a gun. In Great Britain, the bad guys, the criminals, all have guns. It's the innocent, law-abiding citizens who don't have guns. And we don't want to put ourselves in that same position. It's one of the reasons we declared independence from Great Britain.
Lars, that is ridiculous. In Britain, virtually nobody has guns, and that is why their murder rate is 1/5 of ours. It is 1/5 of ours. So your only explanation would be that people in Britain are much nicer and better than people in America. That's unpatriotic. I say, to quote the immortal words of The Who, the kids are all right.
Well, here are our viewer voice results. A little lopsided tonight. It looks like for Lars Larson, 42%, and Steve, 58% tonight. So thank you for joining us. Look for more opportunities to vote in our viewer voice polls. We'll see you next week for Left Hook, Right Jab.
Thanks, Laurel.
Tracy.
Thank you all.